Hello, all. This week we are reviewing a book titled Invisible Women, Exposing Data Bias in a World Designed for Men. The author of the book is Carolyn Criado Perez. Now, talking about the book is all about how the whole world and the society is designed for men by men and the kind of issues that women face living in this society. There is minimal data collected about the problems that women face, and the problem solvers as policy makers are prevalently men, and hence nobody understands the real problem that women face, and they build products and features and create policies that are either not helping women or against the welfare of women. Now, it explores this problem statement from different facets of society. About the author in particular, she is a British feminist author and activist. While she explores this problem statement for all women across the world in general, she quotes a lot of examples from Britain, of course. And she acknowledges the feminist tone and the feminist angle that she brings about in describing this problem. But she also ensures that she convinces the audience about the larger problem statement that she is trying to highlight. Now, moving on to the summary, there are 4 or 5 key topics which are discussed. The first one is around the daily life, what happens day in, day out, what are the problem statements. Second one is in the workplace. The next is in the product and the tech world. Then in the world of medicine. Then in public life, the issues that women face. And last, in times of war and distress, what are the problem statements that women face. Now, starting with the daily life portion, it starts with simple examples, say in the transport or commute, how the transport system works, the kind of schedules that are set up in the society today. It is primarily suited to solve the problem of men who start in the morning, commute and then come back late in the evening, etc. The schedules are set up in such a way to suit them. But if you see what women do, they do a different kind of commute actually, right? They take care of elders, they have children at home, they have to drop them at school, then they have to go back to their work, pick up groceries, etc., come back. It's a different kind of a commute that women do, and the systems are not designed for that. This is primarily why, because the peak hour traffic or the scheduling data is primarily driven by male population, and there is minimal inputs on how women participate in this activity. Now, when cities are also designed, if you see, there is a metropolitan area where a lot of business activities / workplaces exist, and then there is household area which is set up to help men wind down at the end of the day, because after a long day of work they come back home in a secluded spot, wind down, etc., and hence it is a little far away from the hustle and bustle of the city. But if you consider what women go through, women have to work, they have to do all the activities that I just described before, then come back home, do the household chores as well, which means that the more they take to commute, it becomes all the more difficult for them to handle the work at home. But this is not thought through when building of cities. Almost all metropolitan cities are built the way I just described. This results in women dropping out of work, quitting their work, and becoming household, more of people taking care of households only. The other biggest problem in the day-to-day life is around the design of toilets in public spaces. We already know that in countries, underdeveloped countries like India, women face a lot of problem going to trying to defecate themselves in public spaces. There are a lot of sexual offenses that has committed against them when they try to do this. If you think this is happening only in undeveloped countries, no, even in developed countries, the number of public space toilets in public spaces are coming down. Either that or only single toilets are being there. Now women face problems using this, which means that a lot of times women either consume less of water and hence are prone to dehydration, or they do not urinate themselves when they're supposed to do, and it's leading to a lot of issues and health hazards that they have to face. Now this is it's a pity that we are talking about all of this in this day and age. Now, the other issue with urban planning that we do is the mass rapid transit systems or the commuting mechanisms that we have set up to solve for are primarily solving issues of faster commute. but not of safer commute, which is a key problem statement for women. We know of the Delhi gang rape that happened a few years back, which was a huge issue that was called out. That happened primarily because of we not thinking about safe commuting places for women. It's not just this, these are reported issues. There are a lot of unreported issues which are there. Say for example, in crowded places, the kind of groping that happens, etc., are not monitored, and nobody even comes out to report these because of the shaming that the society does to these women. Now, because of this, women avoid using these resources or commuting utilities. And we have to keep in mind that women have equal right to public resources as well. Now, this is all on the daily life, the problems women face. The next one is on the workplaces. This is general information about the kind of gender bias that is there in workplaces, and a lot of corporate companies are trying to address that. But there are very simple issues which are still there. Say for example, the temperature control in air conditioner is suited to male body temperature, and women body temperature are a little lower than that, which means that the temperature at which the air conditioner is set is not suitable for women, and they feel very cold and they face health hazards, etc. Say for example, in Google again, the parking space dedicated for pregnant women was allocated, but it was allocated way off away from the entrance of Google, and this was not reported. It was highlighted by Sheryl Sandberg to Sergey Brin, and then it got to notice, and Brin called it out saying that it did not strike me at all. And the author says that because the leaders at the top are predominantly male and the infrastructure, etc., are designed by them, there's not a lot of thought that goes into thinking about problems that women face, and it needs a Sheryl Sandberg to call it out to Sergey Brin to solve this problem. Imagine the plight of women in other companies. Now, there are other issues around late working hours, male population stretching themselves to work long, because of which they get promoted faster, and expecting women to do the same things is unfair actually. Why? Because women have to go back home, they have to take care of their household chores, which by default are put on the top of their head. And this unpaid work of taking care of household, taking care of children, taking care of elders, etc., is not discussed at all. And in families where both men and women work, it becomes all the more of an issue to handle. Now, the occupational hazards that are generally described in workplace, in manufacturing setups, etc., are primarily discussed around the issues that men face, because of which the policies that are designed to solve for this problem are not specific to women problems that they face. So for example, the issue in the military equipment design are not thought through with women in mind. Hence, equipments are designed for handling of a typical male, and women are called as atypical in this situation, which is a problem. And now you would assume this is in normal workplaces, in product and tech world, which claims itself to be all the more progressive and advanced, etc., you would not see such problems, but they exist there as well. It starts off from the design of a piano. The hand span of a woman is much shorter than of a man, but the piano is designed for a hand span of a man. Now that starts from there, and then there is your iPhone. The iPhone was small in size, but it continues to increase in size. Average palm size of a woman is much smaller than a man, and hence using an iPhone in a single hand, which is designed for a man, is next to impossible. Similarly, the venture capitalists, the tech industry, are not really keen on investing in women specific products, for a simple reason that there is less of data talking about the success of such products, or women CEOs running these companies to success. But the author quotes about the returns that companies driven by women CEOs versus returns delivered by companies run by male CEOs is vastly different. Women have shown much higher numbers, but still for some reason the investments are not happening as well as they should. Now, the problem she also highlights is that there is not a lot of data about women tech or products with women tech, because of which investments are not happening. because of which the products are not coming out. Hence, it becomes a vicious cycle, and it is a situation that one needs to address quickly. This is in the product and tech industry. Now, moving on to the medicine field, it's a very big problem that you will see here. The medicine's body of knowledge assumes that except for the reproductive organs and the hormonal imbalance that women face, the rest of the body parts are very similar to male. And hence all diagnosis, treatments, etc. are very similar to both these for any other body parts. But the author gives a lot of examples and citations where it is clearly proven that it is not the case. Even in other organs, there are women specific problems that come out, and if you assume that this is a problem which is not there in the body of knowledge that is generally used, that's a wrong diagnosis that's going to happen, and women are going to struggle. Now, extending this to the pharmaceutical industry, in clinical trials, the representation of women is very, very meager. The primary reason that is being quoted by pharma companies is that women have hormonal imbalances, and it is a very complex biology that they have, and hence it can screw the results of a clinical trial, and hence they generally don't go consider women in their clinical trials unless absolutely necessary. Now imagine the prescription drugs that are generally doled out in the open market, women consuming them, but not a lot of tests were done on them in clinical trials, and if it goes against them, we would never even know about it. This is a very big problem. Now moving on to public life and policy making, we all know the representation of women in parliaments across the world is a meager number. It is, I think, less than 10 to 15%. And there is very clear evidence proving that in situations where the legislature is filled with a lot of women, the amount of investment that goes into educational setups is much higher. And as long as we have men representing the entire population and not thinking of problems that women face, the legislations will never be in favor of them, and so women in the society will continue to face the problems that they face today. Now, moving on to issues that women face in pandemics and war times. We all know the kind of sexual offense and rape history that we have seen in war crimes in war-torn countries. The issue is also significantly high in terms of situations of pandemic as well. Say in outbreak of Ebola or influenza or cyclones or hurricane hit times, there are rehabilitation centers that are being set up, and they don't have proper kitchen facilities, they don't have proper toilet facilities. There is only one toilet which is there, both men and women have to use. It becomes really awkward and disturbing for women to live in these horrid conditions. And more importantly, pregnant women during times of pandemic are more prone to attack of the pandemic because they have to visit the hospital more often. How do we solve this problem, etc., is a big question mark. Now, if you imagine this is going to happen only in underdeveloped countries and it may not happen in developed countries, you are wrong. The other quotes of situations where during times of Hurricane Katrina, a lot of sexual offense issues were called out in the temporary houses that were set up in the USA. Now, the author ends the book with this thought, citing that our thought processes have to change radically, dramatically, and hence build societies accordingly. Now, what are the three key takeaways from this book? Now, throughout the book, the point that is being called out by the entire society, the male-dominated society, is that why can't women be more like men? Now, the general thought that is prevalent in the society today, forcing us to believe that men are the typical humans and women are atypical, has to change first of all. This needs a change, and women are as human as men can be, and hence the policies, the design, etc. around the society has to change, and they have to be inculcated into the policy making as well. Now, while the market for women is significantly big and large, I somehow fail to understand why The product and tech companies build products which do not consider this portion of their market in their design at all. Women are continuously fed products that are not built for them, are not suited for them, but they are forced to use them because of a lack of better choice. Either we change that or we allow more women entrepreneurs to build their own products. This is the second problem. The last big problem is about how we have already built the society slash building the society slash how are we helping our children grow with the right mindset. Today they are exposed to all the current problems that we just spoke about in this book, and they grow up in the society only. Now at some point some kind of a strategic shift has to happen in the mentality of these children as well, so that they become better individuals tomorrow and they venture into a new society and they become policy makers. They ensure that this issue is rectified and corrected. With this, we will close the summary and review for this week. I'll catch up with you again next week. Thank you. Goodbye.